Hello, my name is Stephanie and I'm an artist living in Vannes, France. How are you doing? Great, lovely to hear that. In today's video, I'll be doing some ink and watercolor painting, and oh boy did I need that break from my sculptural work. I have been working for months now. I don't really want to talk about it today in this video. Today I want to focus on something else, but just let me tell you, I've been working like hell for the last month and I didn't really have a break. I didn't really have holidays, and I'm not ranting about it. I love doing what I do on a daily basis, but I did feel a little bit tired and down, and finally got myself a day off and could paint. So I'm really happy about that. Finally had the time to really dive into something I was inspired by a while ago and really just painting for myself, which is rare. Yeah, that's the real life of a professional artist. You rarely do work just for fun, which is fine. It's not like you do work that is not fun. It's mostly fun. But yeah, this was really needed and I had a great day drawing and painting this one. Okay, so in today's video, full disclosure, I will be talking about insect parasitism. So if you are grossed out by how nature works, I can understand that. That's fine. You just will have to mute me. I mean, the painting is already pretty clear on what it's going to be about, but maybe you just don't want to hear about it, and I really get it, but you still want to watch me draw and paint, so that's fine. So again, if you don't want to listen about parasitism, just mute me, put on some music, some tunes that you like. I've personally been really listening to a bit of an older song from Ariana Grande, Seven Rings, which is odd because I just don't agree with those lyrics at all. Like, really not. And I find it sad somehow. I'm not sure if that's wanted or if there's like double meaning. Honestly, I don't think the lyrics are great, but I really like the beat. But no, just like listen to anything you want. It's not what I usually listen to, by the way, but yeah. Anyway, so back to the painting, back to parasitism. Please mute if you don't want to hear it. So I really think I did enough warning now. Okay, so you might remember this, but I do have a certain obsession with insects. I did have a daily challenge painting beginning of 2018, and since then I've been reading about insects and really enjoying it. So I would not say I know that much about them because there are a lot of insects on Earth. Basically, in terms of biomass, it's mostly insects if you don't count bacteria. Because if you go into microbiology, obviously, but that's another topic for another time that I'm also very interested about, but not today. Today, let's focus on insects. So I think in a way, insects and that daily challenge where, again, I painted different insects every day, that really got me interested in natural history a whole lot more. And even though I don't nearly read enough about it, I really love it. And I often take my time reading those books because I'm trying to actively remember everything I read. So it's partially work. It's not like fictional books that I just consume much faster because I am just enjoying, the story plots and the writing. But with natural history books, I'm often taking notes and I'm actually rather inspired by it creatively, or at least in theory, because I rarely get to act upon that inspiration until, today or yesterday, because I did record it yesterday. So this is the painting directly inspired by my reading. So the first time I read about Parasitic Wasp was in the really wonderful book Planet of the Bugs by Scott Richard Shaw. He's actually an entomologist that specializes in the Hymenoptera order, which is an insect order that comprises wasps, bees, hornets, to just name 3, and Hymenoptera actually means membranous wing. Ptera is wing, And I mean, while we're at it, and because I was curious, the flies belong to Diptera, which means 2 wings. Butterflies and moths belong to Lepidoptera, which means scaled wings. And yeah, that's all I recall now, and I'm just kind of lazy. Oh yeah, there's still Coleoptera, the beetle order, which is arguably one of the biggest order, or one of the 4 biggest. I think those 4, I just, like, this is the 4th that's the biggest orders of all insects. And so Coleoptera, let me check quickly. I think it's armed wing or something like that. But I just want to be sure and not tell anything. So when I search online, I always get it in French first. So I have to actively put in Wikipedia English to have the English definition, because it's going to be easier on me to read the etymology in English than French. Am I right? So Coleoptera comes from the Greek Coleopteros, given to the group by Aristotle. Sorry, I don't know how you pronounce it in English. For the elytra, so that's the hardened shield-like forewings. From coleos, sheath, and pteron, wing. Anyway, so the book tells the story of evolution on Earth, but through the eyes of an entomologist. So it's really interesting, as he teaches us evolution again, but not from a mammal perspective, as well, we are mammals, but looking at it from an arthropod, so from an insect perspective. And that is quite eye-opening, I tell you. I highly recommend this book just for that, because I think humans really need a huge piece of humble pie when it comes to nature. And this book honestly does a great job at that. It kind of like puts insects first and shows that they did everything before mammals, and next to plants sometimes. But yeah, it's really interesting, and it makes you look at history and how you write history differently, as usually when we write about our history or evolution or science, we always have a mammal point of view. And so it's quite interesting to kind of switch a bit your worldview or your point of view and look at it from another perspective. So that's quite interesting. And the book is chock full with interesting details, but again, for some reason I got really fascinated by parasitic wasps. Parasitism is actually quite common in the Hymenoptera order, and of course Shaw discusses its evolution. So please keep in mind, I am not an entomologist. I did not do any studies in natural science, natural history, or biology, or entomology, or anything like that. I did study architecture, so way off. But yeah, again, so I might make mistakes even using the book. So if you are unsure about something, or if you want to double check, please do. And if I say something that is wrong, please let me know in the comments. I'm not perfect. Yeah, shocker, I know. So the evolution started with wood wasps that used to eat fungi and rotten wood. But eventually they developed a taste in wood beetle larvae. Long story short, female wasps have an ovipositor that is also where their sting is. Now, the ovipositor is quite complex, but let's not dwell on that. It's basically the thing with which they lay an egg. So they ended up developing a venom, and so would sting a wood beetle larvae with their venom, paralyzing it and then depositing an egg inside. That way the baby wasp would have plenty of food to eat. So it is out of what we would call love in a way. I mean, love is a very complex chemical process, and we humans tend to romanticize it a lot, but basically the wasp does that, laying an egg into another living being just to be sure that her baby can feed on it and can grow and develop into an adult, a happy adult. So another interesting thing is that insects don't have blood vessels like we do, so basically everything swims in blood inside of them. So when the egg arrives into an insect, the immune system would naturally attack it because obviously it's dangerous. But microbial symbiosis and evolution made it possible for the egg not to be attacked, thanks to a virus that just happened to be here on the ovipositor and disabled the host's immune system. So yeah, that's evolution for you. Like, a bunch of random things happen and sometimes it works, and we actually only see what works. Obviously, everything that failed just was a dead end. Now, this is all good and all, but the problem of paralyzed host is that, well, I mean, they're paralyzed, so they don't move, which means they can get eaten by others. And actually, as a consequence, most modern wasps don't paralyze their hosts anymore. So the host lives, but with the parasite inside of it. Thus, it can still grow and even mold, move, protect itself. And the big advantage is that the wasp can attack much smaller insects. And it also permitted wasps to colonize other habitats than rotten wood. Next thing that happened in the evolution was that wasps would paralyze a host, often a caterpillar, inject it with an egg, and then grab the host and hide it into a nest, often a simple hole in the ground or in a tree, under the sand, something like that. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, if you're still here listening to me, and if you are doing so, you are awesome. Thank you for listening. So this is interesting because the wasp basically would bring the food into a nest to feed the young. Now, this is called, or this is what he calls, Shaw in his book, nest provisioning. And that behavior paved the evolution from solitary to social behavior. And more specifically, that means the evolution of bees, paper wasps, and all that kind of social insects. Now, of course, honeybees have evolved into vegetarians, but they still make a nest and they bring back food, in their case pollen, for their young. Paper wasps make nests out of chewed wood pulp and fill the cells with chewed food, usually insects, to feed their babies. And ants, well, ants are much more complex. They are omnivores and they eat all kinds of things. They farm aphids, they bring in fungi, they eat vegetables or plants, insects. They're very close to humans in that regard. They can digest and eat a lot of things, and their hierarchy is very complex. But probably I should work on ants because ants are fascinating as well. Anyway, so ants are also building up a nest and bringing in it food for their kiddos. So yeah, now you might understand why I was so fascinated by the parasitic behavior of wasps and what it paved for the evolution of insects in general. So quickly back to the painting. What I wanted to do here was an embrace between a wasp and a caterpillar, and I wanted to give the idea of love and relationship as well, because that's how we see reproduction as humans or mammals. Mammals have a very different way to approach reproduction, and it's often chemically we are meant to like the other before we do anything and before we reproduce. But in the insect world, reproduction is quite different, and it's often brutal. It's often quite brutal, with the female eating the male, for instance, or like here, the female just putting the egg into another living being for it to grow. So it's a lot more cruel, so to speak, or from a mammal perspective. But it's at the same time, it's a mom taking care of her egg and giving it the best life outcome. And it's also a sort of relationship between a host and a parasite. So that's why I wanted to give it something a bit, I don't know, not romantic, but something like that, with the flowers and the twig and the interlacing and the colors. That's pretty much all I had to say for today's video. I think that's quite enough natural history for today. Let me know if you found it interesting, as I personally love talking about natural history and insects in general. I'm not that knowledgeable, but I'm just keen to read and learn about it, and I really like to talk about it because I find it so much fascinating and so different from human behavior. I think that's what gets me. We are so self-obsessed, often we humans. You can see that in the art as well. So many people are so focused on human representation, on pretty girls, on everyday life problem. And if you just look how life is in a different animal order, it's vastly different, the way they behave, the way they reproduce, the way they feed. And I think it's always interesting, and at least it helps me to put some perspective in my own life. So if you have any book recommendation of any kinds of animals that you really loved, I mean microbes, plants, fungi, whatever, let me know in the comments, because I might read it, as again, I really like these books, even though I read them slowly. I will read them eventually. And also let me know if this topic is of interest to you, and if you'd like to chit-chat more about it. Again, I would love to, but I don't want to force it onto you. This YouTube channel, I've been growing to kind of like it, to post weekly videos. It's always on my mind, to be honest, the YouTube channel. I think I will have to take a break at some point to be able to focus on the rest of my artistic work, but it's still, I mean, I really quite enjoy doing this video. I want it to be a conversation with you, my followers and watchers, and I don't know how you call you, subscriber, whatever, the people who watch this video. So if you found this interesting, please let me know so I can assess if it's something I can talk about more in the future. Okay, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please like, comment and share. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit that notification button, cause that's what the cool kids do. I think. Never was a cool kid, so I mean, what would I know? And I will see you in my next video. Bye!